He's a dapper, suave, handsome hospitality veteran and someone who isn't afraid to speak his mind. We've known each other for some time now. He's a friend. I admire his analytical mind and above all, respect his business acumen. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce you to Mandeep Lamba. Mr. Mandeep Lamba, but for me, you will always be man.
Thank you, Kunal. Delighted to be here. And I must tell you that when you started talking about, the person that you're meeting today, I was very sure with all the adjectives that you use that there has been some bit of mistaken identity. And I was beginning to get worried because this is not me. Till you reached Sukreeta and I realized, okay, maybe he is talking about me. So thank you for that very, very generous and kind, introduction. And I'm delighted to be here.
But Mandy, I've known you for about 7 years now. There is a picture of hospitality, right? And there are few who embody that picture of hospitality in India. It's been about 7 years that I've kind of known you. And I truly, truly believe that you are that embodiment of hospitality when I look at you. Whether it's a morning walk or whether it's an evening dinner or it's a casual stroll, you have always been impeccably dressed. Where did this come from?
Thank you so much, Kunal. I think it was part of the growing up, partly, of course, because I came from a forces family. And, in a forces family, there's a lot of attention to, looking nice, being an army officer. It started from there, and I think it grew on me as hospitality career sort of, we went forward. I enjoyed, being well-dressed. It was just something that I liked. It made me feel better. It made me feel more confident. And it just then became something which became part of my DNA, part of my character.
I think part of your identity as well,
It's
right?
become a part of my identity. And yes, that's true. Whether it is, it's overrated in many ways, but I enjoy, just being myself.
Yeah. Mandy, I've been on a journey of figuring out leaders in India. And I always believe there is always a backstory to it, and it has to start from childhood. Let's go there. Give us a sense of where were you born, what was happening in your early years, who all in the family?
Sure. I come from a forces family. My father was in the army, in the Indian Army. He was a doctor, a dentist by profession. And he had a very meritorious career. He retired as a brigadier. And we grew up being in an army family. We grew up in many cities. And we traveled many parts of the country, went to many different schools, obviously met a whole lot of people. And it was a very interesting childhood that I had. I can't think of any time in my childhood which doesn't have fond memories. I only have fond memories. Barring perhaps, my dad was a bit of a troublemaker in the sense that he put a lot of scare, starting from just soon after he got married. He had this bullet motorcycle and he crashed into an oil tanker and had multiple skull fractures and came out almost from the dead. He had another accident in 1971, just when the Indo-Pak war happened. And again, he had multiple skull fractures, came from the brink. He had a heart attack when he was very young in the 40s. So he gave us a lot of these scares. And some bit of, my mom had that little bit of insecurity But other than that, I think we had a very happy childhood and grew up, in a very, very stable, loving household.
And it was all across India.
It was all across India, and we had two brothers, and my brother is elder. He's 4.5 years older than I am, and he had a meritorious career as well. He took after my father's profession, went on to become a doctor, and then got the highest serving rank in the Army Medical Corps as the Lieutenant General. So
nice.
I think happy tidings there, certainly.
Oh, so tell me something. Your mom was there, and there were two boys, and your father had been through unfortunate circumstances with
Right.
the accidents. Was she overtly cautious with the boys?
I don't think she was, but she was a very, very strong-willed person. And a lot of her influenced, I think both of us, my brother and I. My dad was a very disciplined and a very fine person. I remember when he passed away in 2014 on his service when we were doing at the Gurdwara Rakabganj. I did a little pictorial, display of his life. And I called it An Officer and a Gentleman, which was exactly what he was. He was a very, very thorough gentleman. But my mother, because of these, setbacks that she had in her life, she is very, very strong-willed. But she brought us up so beautifully well. The home was always a great place to come back to. It was always, very stable and lovable household. So frankly, when I think back and look back, I only have very fond memories.
And growing up years, two boys, I have a brother, right? We were always I wouldn't say at arm's length, pointing arms at each other, blunt objects at each other. How was that growing up with your older
brother? So we
brother?
had that bit of stuff between the two brothers. But again, when I think back, now that you're asking me, and sometimes these questions have come up, I don't recall any period where there was some very serious, sibling.
But could it be
rivalry.
Because he's 4.5, 5 years? That's also like another father figure in your life, right?
Could possibly be. And, he was probably, for a lot of our growing years, we went to the same school, and he was, in a senior class and probably a little protective, etc. But I don't recall serious sibling rivalry at any stage.
But knowing you, Mandy, why do I get this feeling that you were a little rebel kid? Were you?
I've seen this now almost for most part of my life, that the youngest kid in the family has this little bit of a rebel streak.
Good.
I think, you should check this out. I have checked it out. That the sibling which comes later has a bit of a rebel streak. I did have some bit of it. I wanted to be a little different. I wanted to do things slightly differently. And I ended up doing that when I didn't take after my father's profession. A lot of army fathers, and especially in that era, were very keen that their children take after, the father. And I must tell you that I love the army. Absolutely. Sukreeta will tell you this, that if anything gets me all mushy, it's the army.
Yeah.
And anything to do with the army, because again, I think it relates back to that growing up period, which I had such a wonderful, time growing up in an army sort of background. So I love the army, but I didn't end up taking after my father's, profession. And I have to tell you this, that when I was doing my father's epitaph, when I was doing that little speech, I said this. I said, I have to say this. I was not my father's favorite son. The favorite son was my elder brother, because Lieutenant General, doctor, all of that, But it's not to say that he loved me any less, right? It's just that somewhere in his mind, he thought I would have also made a great, fine army, officer. And And once so in the initial years when I was in hotelier in hotels and was struggling with my career, I could sense that my parents are a little disappointed because they did feel that I had the ability to do a lot better.
Correct. And yeah, lack of information also
Correct. And you know
around the industry.
how it was. Hotels was not looked upon as a career of
So right,
of
choice.
Of choice.
Of choice. Correct.
So they were a little sort of quietly unhappy. It's when I attained some kind of success which they started seeing that suddenly then changed everything. That changed everything. Yeah. And then they started really reveling in my success. Yes. They would come, as often as they could, live with us, live in hotels where we were, etc. And then they reconciled very well.
But when you kind of look back, you really would not blame anything per se, is because the environment was such here in India.
Absolutely. It was like that. Yeah. And there is this little thing that the forces have with civilians. Right?
Oh, for sure. The other side of the can.
The other side. So that was always there. Yeah. And they always felt the way we lived and the way we conducted our lives was a little more different than the way typical forces up in the morning, off to office at 8 a.m.
That discipline kind of regimen,
they felt that was missing in our lives. Yeah.
So I Harsimran, my wife, right? Her father, again, 4 generations in the army, the same thing. I remember way back in, I think it was early 2000 when he kind of looked at me. He looked at it at me with suspect. He's civilian.
Right. Absolutely.
As in really, and then he saw my own kind of discipline and rigor. Somebody kind of reconciled.
But I have to say that, one of the things that I got, which was part of the army and part of the way my dad was, and of course I told you my mom was very, very strong-willed, and she really spent her life bringing up the children, bringing out, imbibing the values, of a great family. But my father was a very upright officer.
For sure.
Right? And that is something that I feel got very, very deeply sort of ingrained in me. So I find that to be, and I'm really grateful. And I value that, today as one of, something that makes the character of people.
But I can tell you, Mandy, when you're talking about this, that deep voice that you have, but the voice is tall. Yeah. So not only you're walking tall, your voice is also tall, and it has to go back to your childhood. Of course, looking at your father, the armed forces kind of background, it's coming from there. It's deeply manifested from that early childhood.
I would like to think so, because obviously. Your values come from, from the time you grow up and the family unit you grow up in, and what you see your parents and people around you doing. Yeah. I think children learn not from instructions, but children learn from what they see.
Absolutely. I remember two women talking to each other, and one lady was very apprehensive about that my daughter's kind of going out there and what's really going to happen. So the other lady is asking this, are you sure? And he says, she has my values.
Yeah.
That will take
That's all. Today you have to let your children be purely believing, and having the confidence in the values that you provided. And again, it's not the values that you have instructed them on, but it's the values that you displayed, as a human being.
So moving the story from your childhood to, let's say, the higher education. Here your father eventually rose to become a lieutenant general. Your brother's in the army. Where does hotel management come from?
So it's an interesting story. I have to say a bit of it was an accident, which is true for a lot of hoteliers of that era. So here's the story that I, just to keep the sort of, the will of the parents or the wants of the parents, or I did go and take an entrance exam for a medical college, the Armed Forces Medical College, right, in Pune, after I finished my 12th. And I didn't get through, right? In that, I think partly it was because the heart and the soul wasn't there.
But you were good with academics.
Yeah, I was good with academics.
Yeah.
And I, during my summer vacations, we were at that time, my dad was posted in Mumbai. And for some reason, I wasn't very keen to study in Mumbai. So I told my parents I'd like to study in Delhi. So I came to Delhi and I did the rounds of Delhi University and all of that. I got admission into Kirorimal College, which at that time was considered to be a good college.
Yeah, it still
right?
is.
Yeah. And I'd applied for BSc honors. All was good, but I couldn't find the hostel seat, right? So I was forced to go back. And then my dad had somebody he knew in Pune. And I went and took admission in Ferguson College in Pune.
Got it.
Where I got hostel accommodation. And I went and I joined college and life started. And I thought that I'll sort of finish my graduation and then do an MBA and move on to that path. But about 15 or 20 days after I had joined Ferguson College, while I had come for my Delhi University admissions, some friends had told me about the IHM Pusa, and I filled in the forms.
But you had never heard of IHM Pusa.
I know. So here's something. When I have to tell you this, when I was in Mumbai, there was I started thinking I'll join them. The Navy. Engineer. And then while I lived in Bombay and I saw, the life of the marine engineers, I changed my mind and I said, I don't think I'm cut out for this. And that's the time there was often some mention about, hotels, and, but it was never something that stuck or stayed with me. But while I was in Delhi, I came, I filled in the forms, and 15 days after I was in Ferguson College, my dad calls me and says, there's a letter which says that you've been selected, and what would you like to do? So I have to give him credit. He didn't influence me in saying, or he didn't keep it from me that he did. He clearly called me and he said, what is it that you'd like to do? And I said, okay, give me a couple of days, let me think about this. So I thought about it, spoke to a few friends, etc. And then I decided that, listen, this is it. I gotta go.
And that's how.
And that's the rest is, as they say, it's history.
So I wouldn't call it accidentally, but here you had the hotel management aspect which came into the picture, and that launched the entire hospitality career.
That's true. I've never looked back after that, Kunal. I've never felt at any stage, even though I struggled a lot in the initial years, but I never ever felt that I'd made the wrong choice or that I should have been somewhere else or I could have done something else. It didn't happen that way. It's just something that stayed with me.
And what really happened immediately after, let's say, the IHM Pusa, as in the whole world of hotel hospitality opened up for you?
So interestingly, once I finished college, I didn't get a good start, and there was a reason for that, in the sense that while I was in college, I was part of the students' union.
Got it.
Right. And one of the things that we did, and this was our batch at that time, is that the institute, the Pusa Institute, came under the Ministry of Agriculture.
Oh, at that point in time.
Right. Wow. So we had, all funny kind of board of governors. Somebody had a poultry farm.
I can totally imagine.
Right? So we took it on ourselves, saying that this has to change. Right, and the college must be governed by the Ministry of Tourism. So we took this movement on, and because we were very active in this movement, and it actually resulted in, at that time, a change in the whole setup. The principal was under stress and all of that. So when campus interviews happened,
it has to come out somewhere.
So I got singled out a lot, saying this guy is a troublemaker, so be careful when you hire him.
I go back, man. When you were in school, I'm trying to see the pattern over here, right? Here, you have a armed forces background. You are amongst officers and a gentleman everywhere. and then you're seeing something which is not good,
Yeah.
which is happening, and you say, I'll take it upon myself.
Correct.
Have you always been like that?
I've become like that. Yes, college then brought out that in me, saying that if there is something that I believe in, then I must be willing to participate in changing it
and be vocal
about it, and not hesitate.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to be doing it from behind the scene. I'm happy to be actively
and
involved.
be the spokesperson.
And that's exactly what happened. I then got singled out because of it, because I was vocal. I was my attendance in the final year was some 13 or 14% and all of that, because we were really, really, and the good news is that it actually happened. It happened 2 years after we left college, but we always knew that it would happen.
Movement that you had started,
that movement that happened, and all of that changes happened. And today, of course, there's the National Council and all of that took place. But therefore, I had a difficult start.
All right.
But I was determined. I said, this is the sector for me, this is the industry.
And in the earlier years, where did the acceleration happen for you?
So I think it's an interesting story. The game changer for me was when I moved to a small hotel in Nainital. There was a 35-room hotel where both Sukreeta and I were managing that hotel. I was the hotel manager, and she was the rooms division stroke director of housekeeping.
And you had met in IHN.
We had met in IHN.
So when Sukreeta comes on board, we are going to talk about that story later.
Absolutely.
But yes,
absolutely.
Please continue.
And I was, at that time when this happened, I was all of 25 years. Right? We just about got married in a couple of years. We married very early. That's a separate story, which is an interesting one we can speak about later. That's really when things started changing. Right? Although it was a small, tiny hotel.
But the ownership was there.
It was, and I had a fabulous, fabulous owner. Somebody who I credit till date for being one of the principal influencers in my career, right? Because he gave me that freedom to do things and to discover what I had inside me or what I was capable of doing. So it was a brand new hotel. It became at that time amongst the best in that city. We loved it. We enjoyed it thoroughly. We were complete. I think a lot of people didn't even know that we didn't own it.
But again, at the end of the day, what I'm hearing from you is that early years ownership happened.
Absolutely.
And you were not only innovative, you owned the entire property to design the entire service orientation.
Absolutely. And many things. I'll narrate a very small incident. There was a chef in the kitchen who got drunk and misbehaved, and we decided to take action. But there was at that time it was Uttar Pradesh, and it was notorious for various things, local people, and there would be trouble and all of that. And I was given advice that if you sack him, you'll have a whole lot of issues. And he also threatened that I'll do this and I'll do that and all of that. So I remember, and you have to recall that I was very young.
True.
So I remember calling up Mr. Dinesh Abhi, who was the owner, and saying, this is the situation. And he told me, he says, Mandeep, it's your call, but my piece of advice to you is, if you cover down now, it'll always be like this. Right?
So true.
So think about it. The call is yours. So, it started from there.
Correct.
Right? That the ability to take decisions, and you had the support of the people who mattered. And it was just a fabulous, wonderful experience. And then from there, the career just started moving.
But you were in the hotel industry for some time.
Yes. Yes.
right? And the last active hotel, I would say, was when you were president with Fortune,
Correct.
right? For
Correct.
about 5 years.
So that was my last, what should I say, purely executive position.
Hmm.
And then I left ITC Hotels after being there for 5 years as president and CEO for Fortune Hotels, and got into a quasi-entrepreneurial.
Yes. Let's deep dive into that.
Right.
I really want to know, where did this entrepreneur, yeah, you had service orientation and you came from an armed forces background, right? And you got your exposure with the gentleman in Nainital,
Correct.
right? And then this whole entrepreneurship. How did this transition happen?
It's interesting. I got headhunted. I was having, I think, the time of my life in ITC. I was really enjoying what I was doing. We were being able to create a difference. We were
Segment altogether.
Yeah. We were creating a brand.
Yeah.
We were actually making news. And then one fine day, I got a call from someone saying, "We'd like to meet you." And I went and I met up, and they said, "Listen, there is a UK based private equity stroke, real estate company that is looking at financial services real estate company that is looking at investing in hotels in India." I said, okay. And they are keen to, work with you on this. So I said, okay. I did some homework, and it was a large company at that time. It was a $4 billion sort of company, very firmly grounded in the UK and some other parts of the world. It owned some hotels, again, in UK, had other businesses.
And this was the time they wanted to enter India.
They wanted to enter into India. This was 2006.
Yeah.
So long
Just
story,
before the meltdown happened.
Just before the meltdown happened. So long story short, one thing led to another. And I suddenly found myself, receiving an offer that I thought was, only someone could not even dream of.
And did you have to shift base to the UK, or were you still in India?
They wanted me to be in India, but I recall the final meeting. It's interesting because I was called to the UK. I went to London, and we had this 2-hour conversation. They had brought the CEO of their hotels company, and we were discussing the whole thing at that time was whether we should tie up with somebody or whether we should create our own brand.
Got it.
Right? So that was the conversation. And at that time, in 2006, I was very clear that there is an opportunity to build your own brand because there were not many brands in India.
True.
So I hung in there, and we had this 2.5 hour conversation. Started in the morning at 10:30, went on till 1 o'clock. And at 1 o'clock, they said, okay, let's break for lunch. And then post lunch. So I went for lunch, came back for lunch. And when we came back from lunch, they said, congratulations, Mandeep. We are very happy to have you and welcome aboard. So I said, okay, thank you very much. And then it came to commercials, talking about money. And I didn't know what I should be saying or what I should be asking. So I didn't say anything.
You let them speak.
I said, I'm going to let you. So they made me an offer, Kunal, which was 300% of what I used to make. And I heard the number and I thought there was a mistake. And then they repeated it. And then they said, and with this, we'll give you X percentage of equity in the asset owning company and another percentage of equity in the management company. Now, these were very new things for all of us at that period of time, to have equity in companies and to sort of then get into an entrepreneurial kind of role.
For sure.
Yeah. So I really didn't know what happened. I just, with a straight face, I said, "Okay, that's thank you very much. I'm happy to accept whatever you're offering. Let's make a start." And
And at that point, two things: private equity was unheard of in India.
correct,
Am I right?
correct. Least of all in hotels.
Least of all in hotels, right? And here they could have had, let's say, the VC and the PE players either from the US or the European market be easily placed here in India. That didn't happen.
Correct.
And they saw you.
Correct.
Mandy, I believe what they must have seen, right? I'm just kind of, this is my opinion. You're one of those early players and leaders in India who made a brand from scratch. You understood the entire playbook of how brands are made.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Also, interestingly, before I had gone to the UK, they had asked me to make a business plan.
Got it.
Of what you think. And I remember working on it, and we put a business plan, and, which is something that is, again, very, very part of my nature is when I do any kind of work which is written, then it has to have a certain finish to it, a certain kind of way that it has to be presented, because I strongly believe that what you write is a manifestation of who you are.
Absolutely.
And how you present it. So I made a fabulous, proper book out of it, and did a lot of research. And that's what sort of, I think also would have influenced their decision. But that was, again, a game changer in many ways, because it catapulted me into a position that was at that time, very unique.
Very unique, not only to the hotel. I'm now kind of thinking about it in hindsight. 2006, 2007. Who were the private equity guys in India in any sector?
There was nobody. Except that is the time when Patu Keswani had set up Lemon Tree just about a year earlier, I think in 2005. And somewhere in 2007, he got his first funding from Warburg Pincus.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that was the start. And I had, and they were fabulous guys, the Donny Day principals. They really knew, their beans. And it was a very different world, right? It's very hard to, look back and get that and to explain that feeling of building, or the opportunity to build what I thought at that time would have been an absolutely world-class, hotel company, no holds barred. We were really doing things very, very differently. There were also very heady days, because when Guy Nagar or Peter Klimt came for 3 or 4 days to India to look at various sites, we were on private jets. We were going around.
Did it allow the American hotel companies now to look at India differently? Because here you had a UK-based company looking at India.
Yeah, I think that was a time when India was just about beginning to get the attention, and these guys had obviously spotted it. And we started doing work, and we were doing some absolutely kick-ass work, trying to put things together. We'd signed, 3 hotels which we were building, and another 3 which were in the pipeline of getting and we were buying our hotels. And, like I said, there were heady days. And then the world changed when
lot of the younger generations looking at hospitality is a very broad subject today. They still think it's hoteliering and it's skill. If you can also, in your own assessment, you went to Nainital, you did, then you became president of Fortune, president and CEO of Fortune, then you get into private equity. So this tryst with finance and the entire strategic finance, more importantly. How did that transition happen?
So it's a very interesting journey, I have to tell you. So Nainital was sort of the small little boutique hotel that was in a manner my turning point. Then I went on, to work for branded hotels. I worked for, Choice Hotels, opened India's first all-suites hotel in Ahmedabad as general manager. I worked with Holiday Inn, IHG. I worked with Radisson. all in general manager positions, and then in senior positions in area roles, vice president, president with Ambuja Neotia Hospitality. So my hoteliering knowledge and skills got fairly honed. And I was very, very keen learner. That was something that I imbibed very early, that I need to learn, right? And there's constant learning that's happening. But the question that you ask, Kunal, is very interesting, because at the end of the day, and this is true for our sector even today, most of the hoteliers who come from the operating side of the business are excellent in operating hotels.
True.
But the business of hoteliering is a separate subject altogether. And my learning came when I started working with private equity.
Correct.
And you will have a sense of this because you work with private equity. And, it's
a completely different ballgame.
It is a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
And when we used to, in the initial, time when I had just joined, and we were having calls, and Peter Klimt, who was one of the two principals, and you were doing any presentation and you were trying to talk numbers, he was 5 rows ahead of you, right? While you were still trying to talk off the base. And he would ask you those questions, you'd be completely dumbfounded for answers.
Absolutely. And they use these terms.
Absolutely.
And today you have Google. I remember a few years ago, somebody was asking me, I said, I haven't heard that term. I'm like, on the side, I'm looking at, okay, this is it. Let me talk about it.
So I have to tell you, all my learning on the business of hoteliering came during those 2 years that I did with Donny Day, and they were fabulous. They were such fabulous learning, and they were so good at this, right? And that's something that I really cherish. Ultimately, that career move didn't end as one would have hoped or one would have thought, because the world changed.
The world changed.
Yeah, when the GFC happened in 2008, and they were very heavily,
the exposure was there.
The exposure was very high. They had huge borrowings against real estate, and then real estate started tumbling, and then they went into all kinds of trouble, and that's when, by the way, that's when I first met Dilip, because I sold that business then to Duet.
And Duet was also a UK-based company, right?
Correct.
And at that point in time, they wanted to come into India.
Correct. And they had funds and they were not being able to deploy it. And they were very keenly looking. And then I sort of took some while, but we managed to sell their entire business to Duet.
Which is a good thing. Yeah. So even in the financial meltdown, you exited at a
Kunal, that's a story I honestly, Sukreeta and I talk about this, that I will write a book on one day.
Beautiful.
Right? Because even after all of that, as a CEO in an Indian company, when I got a call, right, there was an Indian director on the board of Donny Day, T.A.L.K, and she called me. We were sensing that funds had stopped coming, and for the last 2 months, and that something is slowing down. But we didn't have the full picture. And T.A.L.K called me late at night one day and said, listen, Mandeep, it's kind of all over. So you need to figure out what you want to do. For somebody in the Indian context, right, it was almost impossible to believe that a $4 billion company
can just
is suddenly
it's not existing
any longer.
So right.
So it took me a long time to even start understanding that she's kidding. What is she saying?
Correct. Right? Assets hai bhai, kahan hai?
And then it was such a situation because the two principals with whom we were dealing had just vanished. They were not available, right? Because they were dealing with the whole larger picture. And we were just left, with the baby and the bathwater. I had these hotels. I had a full corporate office. I had stuff happening all over.
And everyday liability.
And how we dealt with it and how we came out of it is a fabulous, fabulous story.
Might I give you a suggestion on the name of the book? the profitable meltdown.
Yeah. So it was like that, it was crazy. It was simply crazy. And how I then had to go to friends and understand what I should be doing. And I remember finding from the internet a lawyer who could advise us on bankruptcy. And I remember, going up and meeting up with someone who's now become a dear friend, Suman Batra. He was an insolvency lawyer. We met him at the Oberoi Hotel for the first time. My CFO, Pratibha Advani, and me. We went and we met up with him and said, listen, what do we do? And he told us a few things, and he never charged us anything for it. And it so happened that later on, Suman Batra was the lawyer for Duet when we did the transfer. So, but it's a very interesting story. I don't think we have the time to, talk about that.
But more in the book.
It is something that is my life's
And
greatest learning.
And you know what? If we can help you, as ISH, we have researchers here to help you, and you have copywriters to write the book for you. We can do that with you.
How lovely, Kunal.
No, seriously.
No, it's a great story more than anything else. It's a great story.
And the story needs to be
how doomsday, absolute doomsday.
And how you come out of it.
And I didn't know what to do and how, when the sun rises the next day, what am I going to do with all the people in the office? Who's going to be paying their salary? And everybody had, EMIs and then including myself.
So I had a tryst with so-called executive entrepreneurship in Kingfisher. I remember, for me, BGM is very fond. I have super fond memories. And there was a marketing large overlay of money which we had spent, and the positioning of what intended positioning and the market, there was a mismatch, right? And I wouldn't say we lost the entire campaign, but the ROI did not happen.
Right.
And remember, through my boss at that point in time, landed up at BGM's house and narrated the entire story, and he was very empathetic. And I said, so what do you want? He says, I said, I need some more money. And I said, well, give it. I said, fantastic. I didn't know it was so easy, right? I said, yeah, thumbs up. And me and my boss at that time, my influencer at that point in time, we were working out, and he said, just one thing. And he mentioned, I can only give you provided you shell out 10% of your own money. And I said, I don't have that kind of money. I said, go figure it out. Right? That's when you really learn, all right, how to look at the environment before you have such large overlay of money being kind of put.
Absolutely.
And the CFO at that point in time, he says, so where did you learn your marketing? And this has happened a few years later. This happened, I put in my money, all those kind of things happened. Took the money out. He was very gracious. Someone asked me, where did you do your MBA from? And I said, Mandi taught me.
Yeah. It's so true.
Yeah. The Mandi taught me everything.
You asked me this question about, the business of tailoring, which I got to learn while I was working in Doniday at the time when it was still a absolutely robust and a great place to be in. We were just going places, and we were growing at tremendous speed and doing the right things. And then what I learned after the bust is just invaluable. The kind of knowledge and the kind of experience to go through it, and to go and talk to a company who was appointed after the bankruptcy was declared, BDO, and to deal with them and to say, listen, I'm going to buy this company. It was an incredible experience, and how it all sort of ended up. It's a happy story at the end.
Yeah. And after that, of course, JLL happened, and you were present for the hospitality
That's
services.
Another very interesting story. By the way, that also, after all this happened and I sold the company to Duet, for 1 year, I had the capital from Duet, which was part of my deal with them, that I'd like to do something on my own. They had given me the capital for 1 full year to do what I wanted to do. And I set up a consulting company, etc. And we, did various things. And while I was, we were doing our own consulting stuff, we were doing, senior executive search. And I got to know that the CEO for JLL Hospitality had left. Sudeep Jain had left and joined Starwood. And that position is vacant. And I said, okay, let me find out if I can get a mandate too. And I found my inroads. And I went and had a chat with them, and they said, listen, we've given this mandate to a international headhunting company, but we're not very happy with what's happening. So let me come back to you. And about a couple of weeks back, the head of HR, Sudeep, came back and said, listen, can we speak? We spoke. Long story short, we got the mandate, right?
Okay.
So now we are hunting for a head of, and in this process, when we are hunting for this head, and I gave them 3-4, and they were very happy. They said
With
the
the
profile
profiles.
of people you are sending us is far better than what we were receiving. And I got a call saying Anuj Puri, who was the chairman of that company, would like to meet you. So I went and Anuj popped a question to me and said, listen,
are you interested?
would you be? And then we thought about it. He said, you're doing the same thing. Why don't you work in a larger? And then we discussed it at home. I said, okay, fine. This makes sense. So I moved to JLL.
I love it. So from an entrepreneur, you're kind of going there and this happened.
Yeah.
Right?
So interesting.
And now for the last 5 years, just before COVID, right? With Anurag. And it's a huge consulting firm today.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of what's really happening.
So it's interesting. I spent just under 5 years in JLL, as the managing director for their hotels and hospitality business. And Anuj Puri, who was the chairman of JLL for this region, he quit and set up Anurag. He had equity in one part of the JLL business, which was the residential business. So he bought that business from JLL and set up Anurag. After he set up Anurag, it started as a residential broking company, and then he started growing it and expanding it to make it an end-to-end real estate solutions company.
Got it.
So, and then hospitality was one of the areas that he was looking at. It was just timing that's the time that HVS in India sort of had that separation with the Indian partner. And HVS was looking at setting up again with another partner.
Got it.
And somewhere down the line, the founder, the co-founder of HVS, or the current CEO of HVS, reached out to me and also to Anuj Puri. Because Anuj was also looking at hospitality as one of the verticals that they would be keen in
under the remit of
the entire real estate Anurag group services. And it just worked out that is there a role model that you have, and frankly I don't have, but if if there is someone who has influenced me, I did take the name of Dinesh Abhi for my Nainital hotel. But again, one of the people who influenced me a great deal is Anuj Puri.
Oh.
And therefore, when this happened, there was no thinking. There was no
something.
There
you
was
enjoy
no
the
looking
working
back.
relationship.
The kind of the way he works and the kind and in Anurag and under the leadership of Anuj, everybody is an absolute entrepreneur. There is no relationship as an employee at all. I've never ever, even for a single day,
so it's
felt
a bunch of micro entrepreneurs coming together to become.
He
that's the way he.
That's the way he is, and that's how he's built his business and gone places. Over the many years. So yes, that's what happened, and of course, HVS is a global player, and it is without doubt the most respected hospitality consulting company in the world. And I think between HVS and Anurag, who has a very strong real estate foundation in India, and the relationships and the network, I think it was just a complete win-win relationship.
Before we get Sukreeti on the show now, where is the Indian hotel hospitality in the next 10 years? Because you're so much into forecasting. Here, the ascension of the economy is happening. There are more and more people coming under, I would say, the middle class portfolio. The downstream part of an ascending economy is people have more discretionary income to spend. There are Indians who perhaps have never traveled, will travel much more, and in millions. And when you look at this entire sector, right? Give us a sense for hotels, allied sectors, everything. Where is it?
I think, Kunal, it's reasonably evident now that it's India's time now.
Yes.
Clearly, I make this analogy sometimes is that for a very long time, the Indian report card was a bit like mine when I was in early years in school. It used to always say every year, excellent student has the potential to do much better.
To do much better.
So that was India's report card for many years.
It's a
right?
beautiful analogy.
Right?
Yes.
Saying excellent, but has the potential to do much better. And everybody kept looking at this market, and it took a while.
Yeah.
But I think we are right now very much at that inflection point where India is now moving gradually from a developing nation to joining the ranks of the developed nations. It's still a journey. But I think that journey has really caught momentum. And now there is enough evidence that the momentum is such that I don't see anything slowing us down.
Correct.
Other than, of course, calamities which are beyond your and
like
my,
a COVID situation.
So that's so
right.
We've got just so much happening for us, right? Look at the size of the population. The kind of money that we are finally spending on infrastructure. We know the whole story of how we've moved from 50 airports to now almost 200 airports. We know the story of the almost 1,000 aircrafts that have been ordered between the two major airlines. We know what's happening on ports, on roads, on railway stations, right? So there's no stopping us now. Clearly, we are going to the next level. Even the size of the economy, we touched 4 trillion very recently, and surely we will breach it again. We will become the 3rd largest economy. But I think that's not the real crux, being the 3rd largest or the 4th largest economy. I think our challenge lies in the per capita income. That is where, if you look at it, we're still the lowest in the G20, meet that we had in the G20 nations. We're close to about, $2,600 in our per capita. And I think the change you will start seeing in a very, very robust manner and in an accelerated phase the minute we cross the 4,000
per capita. So right. Yeah.
And I think that the way things are, we're about 3 or 4 years away from that to happen, right? So, and that's going to change a lot of things.
The entire consumption
consumption pattern will completely change. Recently, I got a very interesting analogy, from Patu Kiswani, who's another gentleman who I have to say I greatly admire and greatly.
He's a very astute man.
So he made we were talking about similar kind of subject and we were talking about China. We're doing a presentation in the conference that we're having in February in Hope 2024. We're going to make a presentation where we want to talk about the comparison between India and China and what China was 15 years ago, where I think we are now, and how they scaled up, and how we can look at that and get some sense into the story.
Yeah.
So one of the things he pointed out, interestingly, he says that the sale of mid-scale SUVs is directly proportional to the occupancy of upper upscale hotels.
Jesus, I love this. Talk a little bit more about this.
So he said this is something that he has been able to, and I put our research guys on this to find out. And if you really look at it, our sale of mid-scale SUVs is really, really going up. Right? If you go look
at the mid-scale SUV market.
Ever since he's told me that, I only look at the street and to see how, and everyone wants a mid-scale SUV. Right. So there's a lot of this happening. Make no mistake. Coming back to your question on hotels, we've seen what's happening at the moment. I thought that a lot of people had written the obituary for this sector when COVID happened, and of course it was like that in the initial stages. Nobody seemed to know whether this sector will ever emerge again. But look what happened, right? The question is this here to stay?
Hmm.
Clearly it is. I think that sometimes we tend to get over optimistic when we want or expect or forecast the same level of growth as we've seen in the last two years.
Hmm.
I doubt if that's going to happen. I think growth will be a little more tempered. My sense is that it will be more single digit than double digit. But make no mistake, we are heading for an absolute bull run in as much as the hospitality sector is concerned. And this is completely supported by enough empirical evidence that we have on the infrastructure that is happening and the way things are moving and the way the economy is shaping up. The way India is getting its place in the world economy, how India is getting noticed, in across the world.
To the point, what Baru said is the more infrastructure gets built, more and more Indians are traveling by road.
Correct.
And they need these hop-over hotels, motels, pretty much when you look at the entire US network.
So, if you really look at India and the number of rooms we have today, it's
You barely
about,
scratch the surface.
right? Really, it's about 175,000 rooms.
Yeah.
Or,
It's nothing.
some people will tell you 200,000 rooms. For a country of our size, 200,000, there are so many cities in the world who have this kind of...
And the allied industries when this infrastructure kind of comes up.
Our leisure network is very, very limited. COVID suddenly taught us that, we have no leisure destination. We have not enough inventory in leisure.
True.
Our tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 markets with, the per capita moving up with disposable, and the aspirational lifestyle in these cities is increasing. They want better malls, they want better restaurants, they want better hotels, they want to get their children married in good hotels. So there's just so much that is happening and so much that, development that is possible. And clearly, I think, at the risk of repeating myself, that it's a sector that's really going to see significant growth. I don't think that that there is a risk of this sector again, sort of falling astray as it did. We had a long winter, from 2009 to 2017, when we saw a very huge inflow of supply coming in, and we didn't have enough demand supporting it, because the world after 2008, 2009 changed and a lot of stuff happened and too much supply came in together. We don't have that supply problem now. We're not adding at the same rate as demand is. So I think we were just at the right point at 2019, and everybody said that now we're going to suddenly see it, and then COVID happened and it slowed everything down. But we're now really back on track, and this time with far more support from the infrastructure and the economy.
And what give us a sense of the fact that when you look at ASEAN countries and when you look at, when Indians are getting richer, right? Obviously, they want to see India, they want to see Bharat, but they also want to explore the world. And now, let's say the Thailand hotel companies are competing, or destination, competing with, let's say, a Goa or perhaps a Kerala, right? And then you see overheating up of either the rates or aviation rates, hotel rates, restaurant rates, and Indians saying, it's cheaper to travel. Will this continue, or do you think this will also at some stage temper?
Yeah. So I still think that a lot of the stuff that is spoken about, India becoming expensive, is more hype than reality.
Okay.
The truth is that pre-COVID, we were the cheapest destination in the world, right? We were lower than Thailand.
In dollar terms,
in dollar terms. We were lower than Thailand. We were lower than Malaysia. We were lower than Indonesia. We were amongst the lowest. Rates have changed. They've gone up. We're still, and I was having this conversation the other day with somebody who said this, and I said, open booking.com or open Make My Trip, and let's do like to like Phuket versus Goa, right? And you found that it's still not, but there is a perception because our rates have gone up. Listen, Asia is going to provide 50% of the world GDP going forward.
Absolutely.
Right?
The center of gravity shifts.
Is shifting. This is where the action is, right? When that happens, make no mistake that while people from India are going to be traveling overseas because of their higher disposable incomes per capita, other people from other parts
So right.
of the continent are going to be traveling into
So
India. I see a lot of enhanced travel within Asia.
Right.
And that is what is going to be the sort of balancing factor.
True.
So I don't think that this whole movement of, and Indians are going to be very avid
And
travelers.
I think
The truth of the matter is, while having an abundance of nature and other stuff like mountains and beaches and all of that, and culture and heritage, and we had no airports.
yeah, so true.
We had one airline.
So true.
Right?
So true.
We had no hotels.
So true.
We hardly had the roads.
Yeah.
There was no infrastructure.
So
to market these places.
And
successful.
correct. And that inconvenience factor was larger than the destination. So
right? Yeah. How do you come? We had one Air India, right? How do you bring so many people into the country of our size with just one airline which fly? So that has changed, right? Look at the kind of infrastructure that we now have. We had, just 2 international airports.
And you're so right. I'm thinking of what Patu just told you, and I'm looking at myself, and I did visualize, of course, the mid-size SUVs, families are traveling and they're going, because the infrastructure is good, 2-day weekend, 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend, going to a 6-hour destination and coming back.
Correct. And that is what is the game changer.
And that's what
suddenly motorable destinations have become, just very, very, they're efficient and big demand.
This conversation is interesting, but it will become super interesting when Sukreeta joins us in our next segment.
Absolutely.
Looking forward.
Me too.
Thank you. Cut it now. And action. She is an entrepreneur. She's a mom. She's a mom-in-law, and clearly the force behind the Lamba family. I've known her as well for some time now, and I really, truly admire her humility and simplicity. I usually address her as ma'am, but for today, I will deviate and call her by a name. Please welcome Sukreeta Lamba. So nice to see you, Sukreeta. How are you?
I am good. Thank you, Kunal. Thank you for having me here.
And I'm so sorry you had to wait for like about 30 minutes. There was so much to talk with Mandeep.
I know with Mandeep. He can't stop talking.
No, there's so much. But none of this would have been possible without you.
Really?
You're an entrepreneur. You've always been one. You clearly are the force behind the Lamba family. Raised 2 children, now a mother-in-law as well. They're raising now 3 or 4 children because remit बढ़ गए हैं, right? How did you manage all of this? और मुझे बताओ, कॉलेज में और कोई मिला नहीं to fall in love?
It wasn't love at first sight.
It wasn't.
But it grew.
It grew.
Yes. We started off as very, very good friends. And then sort of, it just built up. He was my friend, philosopher, guide. And I was from a small town. I belonged to there. So when I came into a metro world or Delhi, I was met up with people who were totally strange to me. I mean, I saw everything and I was like wide-eyed. And I needed support at that time. He was the support. I actually, clung on to him. And he was such a good friend and so patient and so nice to me.
The emotional anchor.
Yes.
Right? And later on, the spiritual anchor. Am I right?
Yes, our journey started off like that. Um, he being a Sikh, inclined towards Gurdwaras. I come from a Hindu family, but we believe in Sikhism and we used to worship Guru Nanak. So in those days, my family was going through some hardships, and I'm a very family-oriented person. So I was also disturbed, and I said, "Okay, Mandy, let's do a Chaliya." Chaliya is 40 days continuously going to the Gurdwara every day. So we did that, and that's how we, developed this relationship, came closer. We
Yeah, and then you kind of got married.
married was it was much after that.
Marriage is actually like a film story.
Marriage is like a film story. बताओ. आपको पता मैं बॉलीवुड हूँ.
What do you even ask?
Was she a runaway bride?
Yes.
Oh, I
in
love
many
it.
ways.
Not a runaway
Not,
bride.
not ultimately, but it's interesting because we met in college
Anji.
and her parents said, listen, you better get married because age is catching up with you, and there was too much pressure on her, typically as happened in that
For
era.
sure, yeah.
In those
Of course,
days.
of course.
And then I got a SOS call saying, listen, you now better do something because there is a boy I've just met and they're talking about getting me married and all of that. Then overnight, motorcycle pe पहुंचना, करना, talking and
So
all of that happened.
वो streak था आपने, मैं फिर कह रहा हूँ.
So it just worked out.
Yeah.
There's a small anecdote which I want to share before you go back to Sukreeta, is that finally, I had to go to my parents and say, listen, I want to get married. And they said, you're too young. I said, well, it is what it is, right? And my father was being very diplomatic, and he said that, listen, this is the girl is not a Sikh, and I have to run this past the elder in the family. At that time was my dad's elder sister, my bua, and if she agrees, then I have no problem. And I said, that's doomsday, because my bua was a very, very staunch Sikh, right? Sikhni, and she was also, she used to live in Dehradun. She was a doctor of repute. And my dad wrote a letter to her saying, this is what it is. And, you have to tell us what to do. Look at how destiny plays out. It's very interesting. Both of us are born in Dehradun. My dad was posted at the time of my birth. Both deliveries were done by my bua.
Wow.
She was delivered by my bua, and I was delivered by my bua. And she knew the family well, and she wrote back saying, I know that the girl is not a Sikhni. I know the family very well, and I have no objection to this. And then the rest was history. Yeah. So it's just one of those things just played out. But please carry on.
It was just destiny. It had to happen.
Yeah. And you were also marrying your best friend and your mentor and a guide. And that also was happening, right?
Yeah, everything.
I think that's so important, right? At the end of the day, it's...
but if you say I was, I was always my parents' girl. I would not have gone against their wishes. If they had said no, I would have told the line. But because I was like that, no, hanji with my parents, I think, and my brother and hubby had a very big role in this. They supported me. And of course, my father was a strict Orthodox type, and that time, 84, it was extreme
the riots happened.
terrorism.
The riots happened in Delhi.
Yeah, I'll tell you something very interesting. I was going through India Today, and there was an article, and a whole lot of Sikhs there, and I thought I spotted him, and I called him up. I said, what's wrong with you? Are you a terrorist? He said, what's wrong with you? Why are you accusing me of this? All kinds of things happened between us. I broke up with him. Then again I came back. That's all.
I
But it
love.
had to happen
So
in
this
the end.
has a lot of filmy twists and
It has a
turns.
lot of
Huh?
filming, lot of
Yeah,
filming
yeah.
twists.
But eventually, did she palat?
Yeah, she paltoed, and I think while she was saying what she was saying about college and being friends and spending a lot of time together, etc. I think at the वो ना वो एक फिल्मी डायलॉग है कि फिर वो आदत पड़ गई.
He was giving long hours to at that point in time to ITC, and you were an entrepreneur. How did this? How did you manage all of this?
I was, I'm like I said, I'm a family oriented person. I would not ignore the children, whatever. I used to try to give them as much as time as possible and what was in my hands. But at the same time, I used to do this. I used to be 24 hours on, call. Like I used to be going to the restaurant, doing my morning while the children were away in school, come back. Then it was their tuition time, drive them to tuition, drive them back, then come back again. It was a break shift I used to do. And then, late hours, come back home. It wasn't,
But that's multitasking.
yeah,
Mandy, I've seen
multitasking.
like you. There are women who can multitask at this. Carrying, okay, nurturing children. At the end of the day, we are grown-up boys. We are children in the house, right? They are also nurturing two
Yeah.
older children,
Yeah.
right? And yet managing all of this. Honestly, I think we can do one thing at a time. Correct?
So there's there's no easy way
Yeah.
to say this, but I am really in awe of the role that she was able to play at that time, because on the one hand, it was money that had been invested,
True.
hard-earned money. We didn't have
And your first generation entrepreneurs.
entrepreneurial
Correct.
activity. It was early days, when markets were still opening up,
Yeah.
malls had just started to come. The world was changing gradually, and it was really, and all alone when you're trying to run a restaurant and then multiple.
It was not only just the restaurant was one thing that you run. It was like you were doing the marketing yourself, you were doing the purchases yourself. I used to even take my car to the mandi to buy vegetables, do it myself because I couldn't afford a driver.
And do you think, as a lady entrepreneur, is it still a very difficult market? Because largely, if you see, it's a boys' club, right?
Yes,
Entrepreneurship.
I would say
difficult?
yes and no.
Okay.
Um, yes, because it's very difficult for the employees to accept you as a boss, especially the chefs. I had to get them all from South India because I had a South coastal cuisine I was doing. It was very specialized, so all of them came from South India, and they had this barrier. Woman, I know it took me a while to get them to kind of respect me and accept me. It took a while, but ultimately they did.
Do you see that aspect still continuing towards women leaders?
I think that times have changed, Kunal. There's no denying that. The environment is far more friendly. There's more diversity and inclusion than there used to be. But make no mistake, I do think that even today, traditionally, women have a slightly tougher, role to play.
Yeah.
In very urban societies, it's beginning to improve, and men are being far more supportive of women and their careers. But I still think that women do have a more difficult role to play, and that's the reason that we're often seeing a demographic shift where more couples are not having children, and are happy to shower their affection to pets, and that kind of stuff, just to have a career orientation, because it's just far more difficult.
Do you also believe, and this is at least through my observation, women now in India have evolved far more, and the men folks are catching up, even mindset wise.
I tend to agree. I think, like I said, in really urban societies, you can see that.
You can see
that, and I do think that it needs a greater adaptability, and a larger mind shift for the family unit to work.
Correct.
In the current scenario, as I see it. I am a great believer in equal opportunities. I have absolutely no thoughts other than the fact that women have as much, if not more, opportunity to do what they'd like to do. But I do think that for the family unit to work, there needs to be more adjustment than we are seeing at this moment in time. I think we're evolving,
especially by the men
folk. I think we're evolving, and I think that therefore that whole and we had this conversation quite a bit on whether marriage as an institution is something that is going to stand the test of time or not.
Yeah, it totally again depends on the evolved mindset of the man. I'll tell you what I'm seeing with a few friends, acquaintances. You have a power couple, right? She has a career, he has a career. Monday to Friday, there's no problem. Saturday and Sunday, unfortunately, there is a family expectation for her to take over the domestic role. And maybe the guy is playing golf, or perhaps going with the boys out, or going for a ride.
There's no me time for a lady.
Yeah. And suddenly the whole thing shifts. And she's telling herself, you know what? We are in this together.
Yeah.
So if you have to raise the family, it's together. And I still say, that regressive mindset coming sometimes from the men folk, right? I think that mindset needs to change. We need to, again, train our boys better.
Bit.
Yeah, of course it is.
There is a shift, but
not to the extent.
Because culturally we've been brought up like this. We've seen our mothers give up so much for us, and make the adjustments. That for me, my career was not so important. I always felt it's okay. I mean, I can do, when I get the time, I'll do whatever I have to. And that's why I stepped into this.
Well, that's at least you knew what you wanted, and it's a good thing. You see, it's not that it was forced by hand or anything.
But I really stepped into fire. It was.
Did it change you as a person? This whole Simli South experience?
Well,
professionally.
I was very enriched by the experience, because it meant dealing with a lot of different people and a lot of different segments of people. And I learned that skill. I got to know about it. And then, standing up for myself. There was a certain time, he being... and both of us from the 5-star background, you open a place which is beautiful, and it's actually, larger than life image.
Ahead of its time. Yeah.
And he wanted me to give the best of services, best of everything at a
price which was
at a
unreal.
Unreal price.
At that,
so
if you look back,
many times I did not agree with him, and I would say so. But in his initial days, I had to just, okay, we'll do this according to your wishes. But there was a certain time when I felt, okay, this is my place. I want to run it my way. You stay away. You just let me be. If I
Adaptability happens. Why not?
I can't give cloth napkins. I
Hmm.
cannot because I don't have a laundry service. It doesn't work.
And it,
If I want to
adds
give
on to the
paper
cost, right?
tissues,
Eventually, the consumer needs to pay.
if I can't give a fine
Yeah.
dining experience, it doesn't work for me. I want to give a dump service. I want to dump it on the table. I cannot get the skilled staff to do it. You know, I was running a show, so I knew what was possible in that price range also. We were like, he was wanting me to do something to the swagat, that was my counterpart. Swagat was ITC. It had the
Not Swagat.
what was it? It was Dakshin.
Dakshin,
Sorry,
Dakshin,
I
correct.
got the name
Yeah.
wrong. Dakshin. So he wanted the Dakshin standard. I could not deliver those standards at what I was charging the case. It was not practical. Anyways, I started with one, first with the partner, then without a partner. From one, then everybody, demanded that I come towards the mall and start something there. I said, okay, let me open something there. And I came towards the malls, the malls. I got, what a tremendous response I got. I mean, I've seen it all. I've seen about 30 people waiting outside for almost an hour to get into my restaurant. It was a proud thing, but it was, it was very, very demanding. Very demanding. And slowly, I felt I was neglecting the family. I was, the guilt comes to the woman. Guilt attacks a woman. I I could have gone places. I was the only restaurant which started, people are coming to me for franchising it. And I franchised out also. I opened in Delhi. He's a friend of ours who said, I want to do it with you. He opened in Delhi. There were people who were wanting to do things internationally with me, and he was my support. He said, no, go ahead, do it. And we tried to set up an infrastructure. We hired a general manager. And general manager, what nature, some hotel experience guy and all. And it doesn't work. These guys, they come to you, you pay them a packet, but then they've come from such a big thing to this much of a thing, and they don't feel that, they're doing justice to themselves. And
What was this business eventually sold off?
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
eventually, overnight I decided.
Oh, lovely. Everything is decided overnight. Hey, I love it. I love
So,
it.
I think it reached a stage where there was only two ways of doing it.
Either get into it full time.
Either you then decide
Yeah.
that it needed to grow because
Correct.
there was a lot of pressure
Correct.
for it to grow. There was opportunity.
And
for
at
it
the
to
scale,
grow.
you get the unit economics
And
as
we
well.
didn't have the deep pockets that
Hmm.
business required. Had we the ability at that time to have deep pockets? So the other thing was that perhaps I needed to then quit and get into the business and lend a hand with her. And we debated it, and coming from a more conservative background,
That trade-off happened.
saying, listen, should we put all the eggs in one basket?
Yeah, but this happens. You're raising children. They have their own requirements.
My children needed me. My son was in the board class, and I felt guilty because he was not studying. And
I think every family goes through it. But more so, I believe it's tougher on the lady.
It is.
Yeah.
And regardless of how much ever supportive I may be, but support ultimately also has to come in more ways than purely mental support.
So right.
I had a career where I was not being able to, of course, in the career I couldn't physically be going to the restaurant and working in the restaurant and doing things because there was
this whole work-life balance conversation was non-existent at that point. You were slave to the grind.
Absolutely.
I was. I don't know how I lasted out. I lasted out from 2002 to 2006.
You know why
Yeah,
you lasted
7.
out? Your humility and your magic.
Yeah. No,
And she
I have to
lasted.
give her so much credit for what
Yeah.
she did single-handedly. It became a rave at that time.
Yeah.
Those people who have experienced Simli South in its days
They
will
still remember.
will
Will
they
still
remember.
remember.
They talk
Yeah,
very
that's the brand.
fondly about it. She went places. She got written about. She got spoken about in
Super.
forums. And there was a lot of stuff that happened. It's just that I feel, in many ways, I feel that I couldn't do, what I should have done for her is to try and find her the capital, to support her. But I think the timing, whatever
But
it is, what it
Mandy,
is.
look at what you have built today in the mountains. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
It is God. I haven't been there. I've seen your videos, the drone entire thing. Read a lot of reviews, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us about. Oh my God! What have you built?
Don't know really. It just happened. I mean, the children being from the corporate world, then COVID hit them. They were in Bangalore.
I'm aware.
So, the COVID had a lot of role to play. And they came back home and they said that we don't want to work any longer and we want to do this. So we looked at one another and we said, okay, we never say no to the children. Whatever you want to do,
Let's see how we can
we'll
work it out.
support it. Huh?
Yeah.
So we said, okay, the first one, we will do it for you. I mean, we'll open it. You work, be there, run the place for a year, experience. And then if you like it, then we'll, go ahead with it. And that's how it started. We started scouting around and we found this place. This was a dilapidated place because it was built but never lived in, but was old. But when we went to see the place, we felt it is workable. It was nice.
The vibe, the
Yeah.
location,
Yeah,
the
it was just the-
energy.
Yeah, it was the energy. Or
More of
vibe.
that, actually.
More
than
of the
anything.
energy.
Yeah.
The energy, the location.
And I don't know how he just closed the deal without even telling me. And he said, okay, I paid the advances. Because he was saying
And
he's
you own
got
the
it.
assets, right?
Yeah, we own the asset.
But
We own
you
the asset.
transformed that. What have you made?
So
What
so we started. I mean, the kids basically wanted to start a villa rental platform and a business, which is for vacation rental. We liked the idea. We thought that it is something that will grow over the years. As economy grows and as
Correct.
people want to
And
have
people
more
want
more,
those
more and more
experiences.
experiences. And
Correct.
COVID just sort of put paid on that because a lot of that happened. So we went and bought this, place in Bhuwali near Nainital, on the way to Mukteshwar, and it's it's a 5-bedroom villa tucked away in a reserve forest with some very mesmerizing views. We then sort of invested in redoing the place.
Yeah, and
Was it designed by yourself? Was it like
Both of
the
us
family
did it.
together?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
interior is entirely
So she loves doing all of that.
I
So
love doing that.
so
I
she
really like doing up houses.
Oh,
she
wow.
took on the main role, and
We had
Are
the
you
opportunity.
expensive? I just bought a house.
I'll do it for you.
Please.
for free.
Thank you so much. Anji.
Where have you bought your house?
DLF.
Oh, where DLM?
So it's in phase 2.
How nice.
Oh,
How nice.
Yeah.
Great. So, we got the opportunity also because COVID second wave hit us and he was working from home and we were there because we moved there. And then we rebuilt the whole thing in front of ourselves. We were there present, seeing everything. And somehow things fell in place. We found the right guys who did our furniture. While buying the place only, you get about 3 months to pay up get it registered to your name and all that. Within that time frame, we managed everything. The furniture, the interiors, everything was done. And we opened at the right time. Just
Where people
when,
were.
when
Actually, we didn't know what hit us.
I mean, they didn't know. We couldn't hire any professional cook because there wasn't
But
anybody
this
else.
concept, there are concepts available
Yeah.
in India.
Yeah.
I've seen, like, I've stayed in those concepts myself, right? But this concept was very, very different.
Yeah.
This is like a 5-bedroom, ultra luxury,
Right.
boutique experience,
Right.
and everything available.
Very curated. So
Very
actually what
curated.
happened, Kunal, was that because of COVID, and just when, COVID was sort of weaning off, there was this
Everybody
whole
wanted to be
pent-up
together.
demand of going out, and nobody wanted to be in large spaces. They wanted to
And
be
they
in
wanted
confined
exclusivity.
spaces.
Yes.
And that is where this concept suddenly just, grabbed everybody's attention. So we started getting people into that place.
And some really noteworthy people,
yes,
must say.
Of course, eventually we did get Virat and Anushka also who came and spent almost a week
And they
there.
discovered us themselves only. We didn't reach out to them.
Yeah.
But it's because the people who have stayed there and you were part of that award.
Right.
Because before I kind of get there, that interesting name that you have for that, do you want to talk about it?
That is his creation.
Okay.
He's very good at it, and he thought of it.
How did that come about?
So it's interesting. Actually, it's not even entirely my creation. We were trying to find a name for the business between the kids and all of us. And I have a very, very dear friend, Ajoy Bhan, who's from the advertising world. One of the best creative guys that I have known. And I was having coffee with Ajoy, and I was just chatting with him, and I was saying, listen, the kids are doing this, etc., etc. And so he then picked up this line, and he said, you only live once, right? And then we changed it to because you live only once, and it made so much sense. And then I brought it back to the kids, and the kids loved it as well. So then they decided to go ahead with it. So so the platform is called Bailu, which is because you live only once. Yes, and one of our fears when this business was being set up by the kids was that they come from very, very urban background.
Would they adjust to that environment?
And both of them are hoteliers, my son and my daughter-in-law. Of course, my daughter is also involved. She comes from, luxury retail and luxury branding, etc., etc. We said that if they're going to go and live in that, and that place is really, living.
It's deep inside.
It's remote, right? There's nothing there. So no pizzas, no burgers, no ice creams, no movie theater. Nothing. That whether they will last out, right? That was our fear. But we said between ourselves, we said that in the worst case, if they don't like it,
we'll do something.
It's still a real estate investment, right? But today the scenario is, Kunal, that they don't want to come to Delhi, and often, we get upset saying that, listen, you don't have a booking for the next 7 days. Why don't you guys come and spend some time? They'll have some reason or the other. No, Dad, we got to get this done. You come there. They don't want to come.
Again, going back to the fact that hospitality professionals, because the sensitivities revolve around customers, right? They understand, and now all they have to do is put the business sense to it,
correct,
and other logic, and you stack up on top of that,
correct,
right?
Correct.
I pretty much around India and sometimes around the world also, I say the same thing. Hospitality education is this V-shaped professional that you're kind of building.
That's true.
They have the breadth of everything, and they can get into the depth of anything.
That's true. That's
right.
True. It provides you a lot of versatility. It gives you so much of more, direction. You meet so many kind of people. You're dealing with multiple situations inside a hotel. Like it's a living, breathing 24/7 environment. So
and look at it from a children perspective also. They are curating the experience, and tomorrow the platform Bailus will have 10.
Absolutely.
And absolutely the kind of experience you require.
I think one of the things that they are very determined to do, and something that we've supported them, is that they're not trying to aggregate. They're very clear that this is they want to curate the experiences. So we don't want to build this.
Nobody else can do this.
Yeah, we don't want to build this into 100-unit platform.
They want to personalize.
Yeah, It cannot happen. And
Yeah.
quality cannot be scaled.
It cannot be.
It just cannot
So I
be
think the
scaled.
biggest differentiator is that they are there to curate the experience themselves. They're not staying inside the villa, so they don't come and intrude in the privacy of any guests that are there. But they manage everything themselves. They're there once a day to meet the guests. And
No
just
better
sort
way of learning entrepreneurship,
so
but by
fabulous
doing
from that perspective.
I think goes back to the Nainital days where that owner gave you that opportunity.
Absolutely.
The bachas are getting the opportunity today.
And I keep telling them that life comes full circle.
Yeah.
The turning point for us was Nainital, and it seemingly is for them as well.
Yeah. And
They've
the
ended
humbling
up in
experience,
Nainital.
at the end of the day, if you pick up a teacup of somebody, that's the most humble thing. Humility comes there.
Absolutely.
And so nice.
Absolutely.
And all kudos. That's your second venture with entrepreneurship.
Yes, she mentors them. She sort of guides them through all of that.
It's not actually my venture; it's their venture. But yes, I am
Strong
guiding
parents raise strong children.
and we strategize for them also.
And strong mothers is the backbone of the family, because eventually you must be mothering him also.
Oh,
Am I right?
God, thank
There's
you so
no
much.
doubt that I have absolutely no hesitation in saying this, and she knows this. Although I don't say it enough to her as much as I'd like to. That I owe almost every bit of my career and every bit of my success to her. It would have never happened without her. And I'm not saying it because she's sitting next to me. It is something that comes from very deep within me, that I recognize the role she played. I recognize the compromises that she made. I have also no hesitation in saying that when we started our career, I firmly believe that she was a much better professional than I was, right? And if she had continued with her career, she would have gone.
She sacrificed her time.
She would have gone places, probably places.
Thank you so much for
places
saying
beyond.
that.
No, I mean it. I know, Mandy. I'm saying it because I mean it. And but whatever her value system was, whatever her beliefs were, she decided to take a backseat, decided to put her trust and time in the family unit.
So right.
And provide that stability in the family, that sort of love, affection, the strength to the family.
So right.
And that's what she is very good at doing. I am not a great, I can't sit and open my heart too much with anybody, right? She's very good at that. She can do it with me. She can do it with the kids. And that is why the kids are very happy to open their hearts to her. So she definitely provides that serious level of stability to the family unit. And I think without the family unit, Kunal, nothing works.
Totally.
Ultimately, you don't work as success for yourself. If at the end of the day you're all alone, success has no meaning. Right?
So he's just being humble.
No, he's not. He's always been like this. I can also tell you one thing. Is somebody was asked, okay, how do you define men, right? And literally, you had educators from all around the world would give some lovely, fancy definition. And this poor Indian farmer was asked the same question: how do you define men? And he said, from women.
Yeah. So true. So there is that role, and
so glad I'm here today.
Seriously.
Hearing all this.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact.
And I'm not. Make no mistake. I'm not trying to even preach, even in the least, that women need to sacrifice their careers for men. That is not the message that I'm trying to give, and that's certainly not the message I want to give to the next generation. All I am trying to say, if at all I'm trying to say anything, is that the family unit is very sacred.
Yes.
Right? That life has no meaning. Life has no meaning without the family unit. Now, I was lucky, so were a lot of people in my generation, where women played a very pivotal role in keeping that family unit together.
True.
I think the time has come where men also need to play that role.
True.
And women and men need to get into a relationship where they respect each other and they collaborate
Absolutely.
for their success. I
I-
think overambitious careers are also not, ultimately the goal. The goal is to have a good career, successful career, and a happy
So right.
life.
So
And
right.
that will
Yeah, that's
come
what
best
matters,
when you
yeah,
have
the
a
happiness.
family unit.
And I'm sure the younger generation, Mandy, this is that important aspect. If I have to sum up, let's say, this podcast, right, and this conversation, what you just kind of mentioned eventually is the fact that be ambitious, look out for the world, keep the family together.
Yeah.
You're in it together.
Correct.
I also believe, assume we live up to about 80 years of age, and let's say 20 years of age, assume one spouse sacrifices, but this is your time right now. The next 20 years, you could be building 12 Bailus,
Yeah.
under the platform and that personalized experience, right? So, right. And with that, we are going to go into the next session, ma'am and sir,
Wow.
right? Now, let us see, since you have lived with each other for so long, all right, what are the finer nuances you know about each other? And we're going to,
Hey, okay.
and ma'am,
I'm terrible.
Sukrita, we're going to start
Oh,
with
God.
you.
Yes.
What,
getting ready.
what is Mandy's favorite star of all time? And let me give you a hint, there are two of them.
So his favorite star of yesteryears
Yes?
was Rajesh Khanna.
Okay.
There was no one like Rajesh Khanna. Now,
And if in the same yesteryear,
Hmm.
right, and if you just move from the 60s to the 70s era, was there anyone else?
She knows.
The 70s era.
70s era,
Hey,
who was your guy?
hey.
The star.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep.
No,
Yeah,
that's
the Bollywood,
yes.
of course.
Come to Bollywood.
Bollywood.
Think.
Mm,
You have 15 seconds.
It has to.
Just imagine, superstar of the 70s era.
Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
Yes.
Ma'am,
You knew that.
what's the one thing he does to de-stress?
To de-stress, he binge watches any OTT.
Fantastic.
So
She knows you. She knows you.
So predictive.
Can you name? No, that's that's best friend happening. Can you name the last book he read?
the last book he read.
And give you a little hint. He something on LinkedIn. He mentioned about somebody.
He did. I mean, I've not been going to
Okay.
his LinkedIn, but yes,
He reviewed somebody's book.
He reviewed KB Kachro's book.
Yeah.
He read that, but the last book he's just picked up is another friend's book, who's written a book called Anarkali.
Yeah.
It's about romance and.
Seriously? I'm sorry,
Yes.
you're losing. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Right? What was his favorite subject in school?
Oh, I wouldn't know that.
What do you think? What do you think?
Maybe it was maths.
Okay.
You're good at numbers.
Okay.
I don't know. Maths or English? I don't know.
She got it.
Mhm.
You got it. It was English. Name 3 things that are part of Mandy's daily morning ritual.
When he gets up, he meditates for a while. Then he, of course, it's his partner, the life. That's the phone.
Mm-hmm.
He checks his phone. And then, of course, time spent with me
Wow.
with a cup of coffee or
Jesus
tea
Christ.
in the morning.
Love
That's
it.
the only time we get together, really.
Younger generation, please listen to this. She knows him inside out. What's Mandy's favorite either dish or cuisine? Either a dish or a cuisine.
I would say he likes to have a tenderloin burger. He binges on it.
Seriously, Mandy. I'm sorry. Right? You know what? Please give 2 months' salary also to her right now. You're done. You're done. That's it. Let's just walk away.
Let's just walk
Just walk away. There's no point
Okay,
even coming to you about it.
Done.
Seriously. Mandy,
Okay.
it's your turn now.
Okay.
You're on the spotlight.
All set?
What's Sukrita's favorite movie of all time?
Silsila.
So right. So right. What's the one
You
thing?
too?
What's the one thing she does to de-stress?
I think couple of things I've seen her do. One is, of course, she likes to exercise. And the second, of course, is that she's fond of meditation through listening to podcasts of, Guruji these days. That's the guru that she likes to believe in. So, yeah.
Love it. Bang. I'm so sorry. It's like tie is happening right now. Can you name the last book she read?
I honestly don't know the last book she read, but
Which is the book which then perhaps she either refers to in a conversation or...
I don't know. Did you read Lessons in Chemistry?
Oh,
I'm
yes.
not sure.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Don't you have to ask me?
Okay.
Is the right answer? What was her favorite subject in school?
I would think it's English, but I could be wrong.
Jesus Christ. Do we have two emperors? Anybody? Right? Name 3 things that are part of her daily morning ritual.
Yeah, I think she gets up to exercises, then she does her sort of meditation through the podcast, and then she has a ginger tea.
Oh my God.
With you. Please add that also.
With me.
What's Sukreeta's favorite dish or cuisine?
Again, I'm not sure, but I think it's a tie between Oriental and Continental, perhaps.
This is the tie.
Okay.
This is an absolute tie.
So you get to grab the...
This is an absolute tie. To all the
Whoever
men...
grabs the hammer first.
No, not to grab that. Sorry, ma'am, there is another rapid fire question coming.
Oh my
my
God.
God.
One of you have to answer like this, all right? Okay?
Tiebreaker.
So you please pat on this if it's your answer. So depending on you. All right? Okay? And if you don't pat, you don't get it.
Okay.
How many months have 28 days?
How many months do I have? 28.
12.
Yeah. How many months have 28 days?
Yeah.
You need to pat.
Yeah.
All right.
And you
So
know
1 0.
the pan of
1 0.
numbers.
Who is the only Indian director to ever win an Oscar?
For Slumdog Millionaire. No.
No.
He did get a Oscar.
Go back. Go back.
Who?
Go back.
Director
Little
won an Oscar.
Bengali.
Shyam Benegal?
No. Go back. His mentor. Anything? Okay. No problem. Satyajit Ray.
Satyajit Ray. Of course.
All right.
Of course.
He got it for what?
I think I'll put it in the caption. It's a Bengali movie.
Yeah.
I'm unable to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
Yeah. Right? Pathar
Panchali.
Correct.
Pather
Panchali.
Panchali.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pather Panchali.
Hmm.
This is Bollywood happening. I'm sorry. I'm Bollywood.
I'm bad at Bollywood.
I'm Bollywood. I'm
You're a
Bombay.
Bollywood buff.
I am Bombay Bollywood. What was the name of the dog in Hum Aapke Hai Kaun?
You must be kidding.
I can't remember.
No.
It's a joke.
Bozo, Fluffy, or Tuffy?
Tuffy.
Yeah.
I ran now.
What?
Tuffy.
What was Hema Malini's character in Sholay? What was her name?
Basanti.
But you didn't tap. I tapped.
Achha, now you need to listen to improvisation, right? Very carefully. Which movie is this dialogue from? Peter, तुम लोग मुझे ढूंढ रहे हो और मैं तुम्हारा यहाँ इंतजार कर रहा हूँ. Peter, तुम लोग मुझे ढूंढ रहे हो और मैं तुम्हारा यहाँ इंतजार कर रहा हूँ. 70s.
This is a Jeet ki picture hai.
But this was not a Jeet's voice. I'm so sorry, I'm so bad at it.
I don't have a clue.
All right.
I have to admit.
He's one of his favorite actors.
Really?
In the 70s? Yes,
Raj Khanna?
No.
Amitabh Bachchan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diwar.
Diva. Oh,
1975.
of course.
दीवार में ये था.
हाँ. अभी जल्दी से ये करना है ना next
He picked a dialogue out of Diwar.
हाँ. Those is 70s, no?
Yeah, but Diwar के बहुत सारे और dialogue हैं.
और भी है, एक और आ रहा है. Okay, who's the Chief Minister of Delhi?
Our
क्या?
good friend Mr. Kejriwal.
Yeah, 3-0. मेरे को आपने पैट नहीं किया.
मैंने सुना ही नहीं actually speaking.
अच्छा ठीक है.
I was not
we'll give her the
concentrating.
benefit of
Okay,
doubt. Right?
okay.
Next question. Which is the best-selling album of all time? Bee Gees, Saturday Night Fever, The Beatles, Abbey Road, or Michael Jackson, Thriller?
It was Bee Gees.
All right.
Yeah.
No.
No, it wasn't. Actually, the all-time should have been now Taylor Swift, but now that you're
Oh, no,
saying
Saturday Night.
it would have been Taylor Swift, but I think it's Michael Jackson's
It's
Thriller.
Michael Jackson's
Thriller.
Correct. Yeah,
So
at
you
that
get
point in
it.
time, it sold
I
about
got-
110 million copies, right?
Yeah.
From that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Which country's flag is not a square or a rectangle? Bangladesh, Switzerland, Afghanistan, or Nepal?
Oh my
Which
God.
country's flag is not a square
I'm
or a
bad at
rectangle?
all this, but I'll take a guess.
दे लो.
Nepal.
Actually. Okay, is it a tie? Is it a tie? Is it a tie?
I don't know.
No. Yeah.
Mandy's leading?
Leading.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Which
I love
movie is this dialogue from? बाबूजी मैं आज भी फेंके हुए पैसे नहीं उठाता.
Trishul.
Trish.
दीवार.
दीवार. अच्छा, दीवार. हाँ, sorry.
1975.
दीवार.
ये तो दीवार का फैन है.
मैं तो अमिताभ बच्चन का फैन हूँ तो होगा ही होगा. All right, that is basically the wrap up.
And he's won the hand.
And no, I decide.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I decide. And for me, Sukreeta, you have been beautiful. Your answers were somewhat incorrect, but you guessed all the other answers right. Entrepreneur, mom-in-law, clearly the force behind the
Oh, absolutely.
family. This hamper goes
No
to
two
you.
ways about that.
Oh, thank you so much.
And there is a book inside which goes to men.
Wow.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's do some
You're a
magic.
star, Babu. Do we have to sign the coffee mug? somewhere?
Yeah, we will. But you can sign behind this. But tell me, how did you like it?
Oh, we loved it. Yeah, it was good
It
fun.
was fun.
It was fun. And thank
It
you
was great
so
fun,
much.
Kunal. You're such a wonderful host. You did such a wonderful job of, the chat today. It
And
was
making
casual.
Making me feel comfortable.
Wow.
I'm
What
quite
she-
uncomfortable.
Right.
We enjoyed the session, and we will now go back home and brawl over what I don't know about her. Which she never
Actually, you
told
know
me.
everything.
What she?
But one last word to our audience, Mandy, from you. There are parents who are watching. They have questions about hospitality. There are students who are watching, and they think hospitality is still very at its naive stage. What?
I said this during my conversation with Kunal today, and of course, I've been around for 40 years now. I never had a regret through those 40 years, even at the time when I was really, really struggling to make a career. And those were times when hospitality wasn't even considered to be,
An industry, a sector,
industry, or a serious
yeah.
option. Today, and the way we are poised, the way the country is developing, growing, metamorphosing from a caterpillar into a butterfly. The way India is finding its place in the pecking order of the world. The way that the diaspora, the size of our population, the market that we provide to the rest of the world. Hospitality is a sector which is going to absolutely boom. We are at such a low per capita room count in terms of hotels, in terms of restaurants, that it's going to see exponential growth. For anyone who would like to make a career out of hospitality, there couldn't be a better time. And I think this is a fabulous career. It is a place where you can grow very, very quickly. There are a lot of myths about hospitality, that it's a very physically challenging kind of opportunity, a career opportunity, long working hours, poor salaries. Those are some of the myths. There is no career that you start today which doesn't have long working hours, right? The difference probably is that you probably carry some of your work home or you work from behind a desk, right? But you have to work hard in the initial part of any career. And I think that is what every young aspiring student must be willing to do. I think that the growth that you see in hospitality is going to be phenomenal because the demand for talent is going to be absolutely humongous the way the sector is going to grow. So you're going to see amazing opportunities to grow and compensations as the economy grows. In any case, our compensations are only if I have to check with what is happening in the rest of the industries, I think only our initial period is a little challenging for hospitality. And then it absolutely, is at par and at times beyond par of other industries.
So once you stick for like about 2 or 3 years, then it's like
then it just takes off.
Yeah.
So keep the faith, believe in this. It's very enjoyable. It's a great sector and it gives you the versatility to work in many, many other sectors just because you've been in hospitality. Yeah. It opens your doors and windows to many other opportunities. So guys, don't believe the myths. Hospitality is a fabulous career opportunity.
So thank you so much, Mandy. Thank you so much, Sukreeta. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here you have another real life story of both Mandeep and Sukreeta. I hope there is sufficient learning for you, for me, for all the parents and the students. The greatest learning for me was listening to Mandy and listening to Sukreeta was perseverance. There will be life struggles. It's how we persevere. The pain, the struggle, it totally depends on how much we want. And it's directly corresponding to eventually the success that you will see. So from all of us, thank you so much for your time. If you do like this video, do share it with your friends and family. Let's make hospitality education a foundational pillar for everyone. Thank you and goodbye.